In a stark and desperate public appeal that has cut through the political chaos in Kyiv and sent shockwaves to Washington and Moscow, Ukraine's top military commander, General Oleksandr Syrskyi, has declared a critical failure in the nation's war-fighting capability. During a hastily arranged press briefing, the commander-in-chief of the armed force of Ukraine delivered a message of unprecedented gravity. Ukrainian armored brigades are effectively out of ammunition for their tanks. This devastating admission of a core military weakness was paired with an urgent and direct plea to the United States for the immediate delivery of long-range missile systems, a request that fundamentally challenges the Trump administration's carefully managed strategy of de-escalation ahead of the planned August peace summit. General Syrskyi's announcement has exposed the terrifying fragility of the Ukrainian front line and has placed the fate of the war and the peace talks squarely in the hands of President Donald Trump. The settings for the announcement was a Spartan military briefing room, far from the polished presidential office. General Syrskyi, a career soldier known for his stoicism rather than political pronouncement, stood at a simple podium, his face etched with the strain of command. He did not mince words. "I have a duty to report the truth to the Ukrainian people and to our partners," he began, his voice steady but heavy with consequences. "As of today, our strategic reserves of 125mm tank shells are effectively depleted. Our brave tank crews, who have been the steel spine of our defense in the east, now face the enemy without the primary weapons they need to destroy Russian armor. We have reached a point of critical munitions famine." He explained that while the limited ceasefire in one sector of the Donbas has provided a small respite there, fierce fighting continues unabated along hundreds of kilometers of the front. In these areas, Ukraine T-64, T-72, and T-80 tanks, the workhorses of their armored corps, are now little more than mobile machine gun posts, unable to engage in offensive operations or effectively repel Russian armored assaults. Syrskyi's statement painted a grim picture of the reality on the ground. He described how Ukrainian commanders are being forced to make an impossible choice, rationing the very last shells for only the most dire defensive emergencies. He spoke of tanks brigades being held back from crucial battle because sending them forward without offensive firepower would be a suicide mission. This shortage, he clarified, was the result of a long war of attrition, a much higher than anticipated burn rate of ammunition, and bottlenecks in the supply of new shells from a dwindling numbers of international producers. He then pivoted to his direct appeal. "A tank without a shell cannot stop an enemy tank column," he stated bluntly. "Therefore, we must adapt our strategy. We urgently request that our American partners provide us with advanced long-range missile system. If we cannot destroy their armor at close range, we must have the ability to destroy their command centers, their ammunition depots, and their supply lines deep behind the front. This is no longer a matter of gaining an advantage, it is a matter of survival." This public plea for help immediately poured fuel on the political fire already raging in Kyiv. For the protesters gathered on Independence Square, who have been demonstrating against President Zelensky's emergency decrees, Syrskyi's words were a damning confirmation of their worst fear. Opposition leaders standing on makeshift stages immediately weaponized the general's announcement. "Listen to our top soldiers," one prominent critic yelled to the cheering crowd. "While Zelensky is busy writing decrees to cancel elections and silence his own people, our army is running out of bullets. He is focused on his own power, not on providing for our heroes at the front. He's leading us to military defeat while dressing himself as a strong man. This is not leadership. It is a betrayal." The news of the shell shortage fused with the existing anger over the perceived power grab, creating a more potent and volatile protest movement. The narrative quickly took hold among the demonstrators. The Zelensky government was failing on all fronts, militarily and democratically, and was now begging for a miracle weapon from the Americans to save from the consequence of its own incompetence. For President Zelensky, the situation has become a political nightmare. He is now besieged from all sides. His top general has publicly announced a catastrophic military failure, undermining the image of strength he needs to protect ahead of the August summit. His political opponents at home are using this failure to portray him as a failing dictator. His government was forced into a difficult position, attempting to manage the fallout without appearing to contradict its own top commander. A spokesperson for the president's office tried to frame the situation in the best possible light, stating General Syrski's honest assessment highlight the incredible pressure Ukraine remains under and underscore the urgency of the peace negotiations. It is precisely because the cost of this war is so high that President Zelensky is committed to the diplomatic path. It also shows why our partners must continue to support us. We are confident President Trump understands the need to negotiate from a position of strength. However, this explanation did little to quell the growing sense of crisis within the country. In Washington, General Syrski's request landed like a diplomatic grenade on the desk of President Trump. It created an immediate and profound dilemma that pitted the administration's various goals against each other. The primary objective of the Trump White House is to secure a historic peace deal in August, providing Ukraine with a new class of powerful long-range offensive weapons to be interpreted by Moscow as a major escalation, potentially causing Russia to walk away from the talks altogether. On the other hand, allowing the Ukrainian military to face a potential collapse on the front line would also destroy the summit, as Zelensky could not negotiate from a position of such extreme weakness. The administration was caught between the risk of escalating the war and the risk of Ukraine losing it. The official response was led by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who chose his words with extreme care. Speaking to reporters at the State Department, Rubio projected an air of calm control. "We have heard General Syrski's requests, and we take the military situation in Ukraine very seriously," he said. "President Trump has done more than anyone to create a path to end this conflict. The upcoming summit is the best and only way to achieve a lasting peace that secures Ukraine's future. All of our security assistance decisions will be made through the lens of what best supports a successful diplomatic outcome. We are in constant communication with the Ukrainian government and our allies. The focus right now must be on de-escalation and bringing all parties to the table in August." His statement was a masterclass in diplomatic ambiguity. It did not say yes, and it did not say no. It kicked the decision down the road, tying it directly to the success of the peace process, thereby putting pressure on both Kyiv and Moscow. Behind the scene, the debate within the administration was intense. Secretary of Defense Peter Hegseth at the Pentagon was tasked with a practical military assessment. He acknowledged the severity of the shell shortage, noting that intelligence reports had been tracking the issue for weeks. However, he also expressed deep reservations about providing long-range missiles, known as ATACMS, which can strike targets up to 300 kilometers away. These are highly sophisticated offensive systems, Hegseth explained in a closed-door session with lawmakers. According to a leaked transcript, introducing them to the battlefield at this sensitive moment is a major policy decision. We have to consider the risk of escalation, including potential Russian retaliation against NATO assets that they might claim were involved in targeting. We must ensure that any aid we provide stabilizes the front without torpedoing the president's diplomatic strategy. The economic wing of the administration also weighed in. Secretary of the Treasury Scott Bessent was reportedly concerned about the cost. A significant transfer of these advanced missile systems and their launchers would represent a new multi-billion-dollar commitment at a time when the administration is actively trying to wind down its financial support for Ukraine. Bessent's view, shared by the director of the Office of Management and Budget, is that the best way to save money and stabilize the global economy is to end the war through the peace deal, not to fund a new and more expensive phase of it. Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick and United States Trade Representative Jamison Greer also warned that a major escalation could shatter the fragile market confidence that had emerged after the Istanbul framework, potentially disrupting the planned expansion of the Black Sea trade corridor. Ultimately, the decision rests with President Trump. who reportedly sees the situation as a complex but potentially advantaged series of leverage points. Sources close to the president says he views Syrskyi's plea as a sign of Ukrainian desperation that he can use to push Zelensky toward being more flexible at the negotiating table. He can dangle the prospect of the missiles as a reward for cooperation. At the same time, he can use the threat of sending those same missiles as a tool to keep President Putin engaged in the peace process. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard is providing the president with continuous update, assessing whether Syrskyi's statement was a fully accurate picture of the battlefield or a calculated exaggeration designed to force America's hand. The intelligence community's assessment of Russia's own military capacity and its true red line will be critical to Trump's final decision. Russia, for its part, reacted with predictable fury and a sense of strategic opportunity. The Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs issued a stern warning, saying that the provision of American long-range missiles to Kyiv would be considered a crossing of all red line and an act of direct participation in the war. The statement declared that such a move would nullify any prospect for diplomatic settlement and would be met with consequences of the most serious nature. On Russian state television, pundits and politicians celebrated the news of Ukraine's shell shortage. They portrayed it as the beginning of the end for the Ukrainian army and proof of the West's unreliability as an ally. The narrative was clear. The Ukrainian state is crumbling from within. Its military is on the ropes, and its leaders are begging for weapons that the Americans are too afraid to send. The crisis has thrown the entire peace process into a state of extreme jeopardy. The August summit was conceived as a meeting to finalize the peace based on the relative stability created by the Istanbul framework. Now, it is being overshadowed by the immediate possibility of a Ukrainian military breakdown. The limited ceasefire in the Donbass, once a hopeful sign, now seems insignificant against the backdrop of a systematic ammunition failure. President Zelensky is fighting for his political life at home. General Syrskyi is struggling to hold a front line that is running out of its most essential defensive tool. And President Trump holds all the cards, forced to make a choice that could either salvage his historic peace summit or plunge the entire region into a new and more dangerous phase of war. The world now waits to see whether the next shipment to Ukraine will be diplomatic handshakes or American missiles. Many of my listeners, like 70%, haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel. And so many of you don't even know that you haven't subscribed. And that is actually what makes the show going. It's almost like you're making a donation to the show. So that's why I ask again and again, because it enables us to grow and grow and grow. And we're going for the long haul here. And listen, if this is your first time listening to So Hey Rich, you don't have to subscribe. You guys, your first one's on me. But if you have watched the show before, it's like you're a freeloader now. So all I would ask you is, if you have seen this show before and you like it, help me, help my team here. Hit that subscribe and like button now, and we will continue to build the show for you. That I swear. Thank you to all of you guys who have subscribed. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much. That's all for me for today. I will see you soon. Bye for now.